We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered, and it's been quite warm over on my side of things, but not
sure.
Unpleasantly so.
I'm sure it's very warm. It's been like 98 degrees here and 1,000,000% humidity. It's been Father's Day. My wife was like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I am literally doing it. I am not going outside."
Right.
I walked out there and went, "Nope." I'm going
yes,
back
indeed.
in.
Happy belated Father's Day. That did occur over the weekend. I mean, nothing else interesting in the world going on.
Of course.
Not to comment on, except for, the World Cup. The World Cup is happening, and apparently
people are amazed that they're like, "I don't understand why Americans are so fat." And then they come here and eat our food and go,
Are those the various shorts across TikTok and Instagram and YouTube? I've seen plenty of those, like people discovering American culture.
American culture, i.e. unlimited chips and salsa or breadsticks or Texas barbecue, and they're like,
unlimited soda pop refills. That can be a lot of sugar. That can add up very quickly.
That's why you gotta drink diet, man. I'm telling you. The only thing we do that's even remotely healthy. So yes, the World Cup is going on. I have watched like 5 minutes of one game, and it was on Telemundo. So I didn't it's soccer. You don't really need to understand what's going on. What they're saying in order to understand what's going on. It's not that hard. So it's just, and it was fine. Whatever.
All right.
I don't remember who was playing, but I'm sure they were working real hard. So there's been drama here and there about it, but haven't been watching much about it. So for those of you that are really into the World Cup, don't think I'm in any way dissing you. I understand that this is a very important time of year, or I guess it happens every 4 years, right? Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So this is a very important time for people who are fans, and I'm glad that you guys and gals are having a great time enjoying this. I will say though, people don't understand how big football stadiums are until they come here and they put a soccer match in the middle of them. They're like, "Look at how many people we can get in here." And the people are like, "Oh, the stadium's basically empty." I'm like, "Shut up, man. Shut up." We have blackout days that we can't watch our local teams play locally because they didn't fill the stadium enough. Yeah, they're not sold out enough. So it's a thing. So yes, World Cup. Woo!
Yeah, that's right. Because nothing else of interest going on in world news over the weekend in the past while or anything like that. So there you go.
We don't talk about that stuff, even if there was something exciting.
We sure don't. Not anymore.
No good comes of it.
Apparently not. Yeah.
I mean, plus, it's all going to change tomorrow anyway. Somebody's going to start lying about it.
There seems to be kind of an on-the-nose metaphor happening over in Washington, D.C., but I mean, I just can't quite put my finger on what that metaphor might be.
I mean, we were talking about the weather. It is a good time to go swimming. So if you're hot, you want to cool off in a pool, now would be the time.
Sure.
To do that.
Might want to check the contents of that.
I'm leaving in a couple of days. We're going.
Okay.
My son has been working up at in North Carolina at a scout camp for the last 4 weeks. So this is his 4th week working up there, and we're going to go pick him up this weekend. So it's going to be a very long week of driving for me.
Yes.
So I'm not looking forward to it, but this is what we want to do. And by we, I mean my wife. So I was like, why aren't we flying him back? She's like, I thought it'd be fun to go up there and pick him up. I'm like,
Now, does this mean you're away next week, or you will be here next week?
I will be back.
Okay.
I'll be back. He's got to be someplace on Monday, so we have to be back Sunday night.
Okay.
I just did something I wasn't supposed to do. Yes. So for me, it's just been a very warm week. So we have been we've been suffering down here in Florida with the heat, and we complain about it every year. But then again, I complain when it gets too cold. So I mean,
all humans do. All humans have a very small little window where we're actually content.
Well, no, we're not, because it doesn't make any difference. I feel like it's hard to admit that you're happy in any way, shape, or form, because then you're like, it's almost like bragging and you're saying that that you don't need anything. I always need something.
I don't know that that's universal, but all right.
I think
I'll go with your premise for now.
Well, let's put it this way: people who are living the life, quote unquote, living the life. They have money, they have success, they have maybe fame, they have whatever the life is as you define it. Those people still complain about their lives.
Sure do.
they don't.
That's going to tie into my movie review coming up later,
okay,
for
then.
sure.
That's just kind of part of it. People complain. It's and I was doing these trainings over the last 2 weeks, which are now done. Thankfully, had a good time, but it was pretty stressful. And one of the things we were talking about, like conflict. Workplace conflict and stuff like that. And one of the examples that was given in the presentation was like, so and so is complaining about their job, what you should do. And I was like, man, are we really going to try to stop people from complaining about their jobs? Is it part of the reason we have jobs is so that we can complain about them? Isn't that like it's like part of the fun of having a job is being able to say,
I don't think
sucks.
Eliminating complaining should be the goal.
It wasn't in this case, but I was like, come on, because there's always somebody out there who's like, well, if you're not happy, you should go to a different job. I'm like, no, that's not how that works.
Easier said than done. Much easier said.
So, I have just kind of been taking it easy. I had Father's Day, Father's Day, did nothing. I literally did nothing. My wife was like, what are you going to do? I go, I'm going to take a nap.
Yeah.
She's like,
that's great.
It's 11. I'm like, I might not take it right now, but I'm going to be horizontal for a while until it happens.
By the way, how is your back doing? We haven't had a real update on your back condition in a little while.
Yeah. So like I said, I went to the doctor and he said, yeah, that's just it's going to hurt sometimes. I was like, you're not helpful. So he gave me some pills to supposedly help with the hurting. And then since then it's been fine.
Okay.
I don't know. So I'm going with let's do the old Gen X. Let's ignore it and maybe it'll go away. That's what I'm doing right now.
I knew if it was like really, really bad, we would have heard something about it by now. But still, sure. Okay.
No, it's been fine. I'm a little achy when I get up in the mornings, but that's just an age thing, I think. And I also have arthritis, so there's supposed to be that. I haven't been cycling as much. I was supposed to cycle today, but my alarm didn't go off. I don't know why. I was supposed to cycle yesterday. My alarm did go off, and I went,
not in this.
I don't want to. I know how hot it's going to be out there. I know how hot it's going to be out there, and I don't want to go. When it gets this bad, when it gets this hot and this humid, there's nothing that keeps the sweat out of your eyes.
No.
I find very irritating.
No kidding. Yeah.
I wear special headbands that have like rubber seals that
comes from the eyelids themselves at some point.
Yeah, it just there's just no stopping it. I rode on Saturday. I rode to the ride, which is starts at a pool downtown, and the ride getting there is like 2 or 3 miles. It's really short, and I didn't ride that hard. And then I sat around for 10 minutes while they go through all the rules that they have to go through for their insurance purposes and all that. And I'm like, just sitting there. Really, I'm not. My heartbeat's not up. I'm not breathing heavy or whatever. And our ride is called, which is a 20-mile-an-hour ride, and I kind of look down and clip my pedal in or whatever, and I start pedaling. And as I look down, just sweat just starts dropping onto my bike. I'm like, man, I haven't even started yet. This feels illegal. This feels personal, and I feel attacked by the weather. So that's been what's going on with me. What's going on with you, Rob?
I'll keep my update short. I won't go into great details, but there's been good news at work, so that's happy. Speaking of complaining at work, I'm not, because we had some stuff going on in the background. I do work in a job where there are various unions amongst all of the various staff, and so it's been the union negotiating time right in the middle of FIFA going on. It's been a little bit interesting, but there's been good news on that front. So it seems like things are all heading in a good direction at this point. So that's a bit of a relief, bit of a load off my mind, and hopefully that all goes well. So things are pretty stable over here.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we got the Sofabaton U3 giveaway going on right now.
Do.
We will be picking 3 winners next week. So
I
three
said
people.
at least one, and it looks like the number is going to be 3, which is in fact greater than 1. And
Yes, it is greater than 1.
next week is when we will pick completely at random the 3 names who will receive a free Sofabaton U3 and. I don't know if I should say 100%, but it's almost 100% that you will get a charging dock along with that U3 remote. So it's all been good news. So all of that is to say, this is your final opportunity, final week to send in an email to question@avrant.com. This is how you're going to enter the completely free giveaway draw. No purchase necessary or anything like that, but it is a limit of 1 entry per person. You email us question@avrant.com, and in the subject line or the body of the email, say something along the lines of you'd like to enter the Sofabaton U3 giveaway, and I'll email you back and say that I received your entry. If you've already emailed us saying you want to be part of it and you got no reply back from me, send it again, because we're absolutely not excluding anybody. And sometimes my replies go to spam or junk, so do check those. But there you go. Yeah, see, this is the final week to enter. We will draw the names of the 3 winners next week. Exciting stuff. That's why I wanted to make sure you were going to be here.
Yes, I will be here next week. Yeah,
Good.
I am. I cannot imagine a reason why I would not be here next week, because
Okay.
things would have to gone catastrophically wrong.
Right.
So,
No,
which I guess
it's not the well ahead of time plan for you to be away or anything like that. So, all right.
I didn't watch anything this week, and on Father's Day, I spent all day lying on the couch and thinking to myself I should finish hooking up all these speakers, and I didn't, and I feel bad about it. So
That's okay. You don't need to feel bad about that. There were no promises made. Nothing broken. Well, in that case, I can talk about what I watched, which I'm going to talk about 2 things this week, because I watched through, this was spread across a couple of weeks, but I finished up this past week, The Rehearsal, Season 2. So this is one of Nathan Fielder's multiple series that he does. Vancouver Canadian comedian Nathan Fielder, who does his very particular style of comedy, which I absolutely adore, because a huge amount of Nathan Fielder's comedy is audience contempt, which is a thing I absolutely adore when it's done very, very well. But The Rehearsal Season 2 is very, very different from other things that he's done in that it was very nearly sincere. Nathan Fielder's whole thing is that he always likes to tread the line between reality and acting, to where you can't really tell what was scripted versus what is actually genuinely off the cuff, and which people that appear in his shows are straight up actors versus which ones are actually really real people. And he doesn't ever clarify that explicitly anywhere, be that in interviews after the case or anything like that. He likes to let everyone who's watching his shows just fumble around and debate about what's real and what isn't. But The Rehearsal Season 2, so the conceit of his show, The Rehearsal, is just the notion of what if you could just practice a situation beforehand and try and run yourself through every scenario and thing that could go wrong that you can think up, and do all of that beforehand before you get to the real situation. And so in the first season, the first couple of episodes were kind of one-off situations where he's doing exactly that premise, but then, as all of his shows do, it becomes a little bit surreal and a little bit absurd, and then very much about Nathan himself, to the point that he inserts himself in place of the person he was supposed to be helping, and it becomes all self-referential and examining his own psyche. But The Rehearsal Season 2 takes on a completely different premise, which is, like I say, it's very nearly completely sincere in that he identifies a problem in commercial aviation, which is he was looking through the transcripts, the black box transcripts of a whole bunch of aviation crashes, commercial airline crashes, and discovered that there were multiple situations where the first officer noted something that was wrong. The pilot ignored what the first officer said, and the first officer just shut up beyond that point, never brings it up again, just clamps up, lets the pilot say their one thing, and then never reiterates the thing that they noticed had gone wrong. And he's like, there's something not right about this. If one of the 2 people in the cockpit is noticing something wrong and it's being ignored, and they're too afraid or too embarrassed or whatever it is to bring it up again, can something be done about that? So, I mean, he narrates the whole thing and speaks directly to camera, and saying how it's like HBO funded his show. They gave him this big budget with the the one very hilarious joke of they gave him a blank check up to the budget, so, which is never spoken. But just saying like, can something be done about this using his idea of the rehearsal? Like, and so he goes completely overboard, as he always does in all of his shows, to the point of like recreating an entire like airport in 3 gigantic warehouses bundled together that HBO paid for, and like recreating the Paramount Plus studios so that he can go and like air his own grievances about one of the episodes of his previous show that Paramount Plus pulled off the air, just to figure out exactly what it felt like to be like feel uncomfortable speaking up to someone who was above you in authority. Like he goes to the extreme and goes completely overboard in his characteristic style, but he brings up a heck of a lot of good points and seems to do a lot of good. And also lays bare like just how difficult it is to actually get any changes as far as like literally through Congress and trying to change the training of commercial airline pilots. And he enlists the help of, I'm forgetting the position that the man held, but I mean, a genuine person who was like involved with FAA training and all that type of stuff, who has been also signaling this same issue and was appreciative of Nathan's help in trying to get some changes made. And then, like not to give too much away, but Nathan went full on in this thing to the point of like, he's going to learn how to fly a plane. He's going to learn how to fly a 737, which was like a 3-year process that he did in the background. And so it's like, when he says the rehearsal, he goes whole hog. But yeah, this one was like a lot less, flat out comedy and a lot more like, I think he actually was taking this quite seriously. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's only 6 episodes, and each episode is under 40 minutes long, so it's barely long than a feature film. I definitely recommend I love the Rehearsal season 1. I thought it was absolutely hilarious and highly uncomfortable, which is Nathan's other thing, is everything is awkward and uncomfortable. But yeah, the Rehearsal season 2 is a completely different kettle of fish and well worth a watch. So aside from that limited series that I watched, I also watched The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is from 2017. I think it was the second movie that Yorgos Lanthimos wrote and directed. But I can't remember exactly. But yeah, 2017 anyways. It was 9 years ago at this point. So starring Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman, and also Barry Keoghan, who that's the way he says his own name. Everyone says his name should be pronounced Barry Keoghan, but in his own interviews, he pronounces his own last name Keoghan. So Barry Keoghan. And then some younger actors, at least at the time, 9 years ago, they were young, Raffi Cassidy and Sonny Suljic. So this is a adaptation of a Greek myth. So Yorgos Lanthimos has done this several times at this point. Like Begonia is in reference to a Greek myth, and so The Killing of a Sacred Deer is also in reference to a Greek myth. I'm forgetting the actual name that it goes by, but it's the story of when Agamemnon, the king Agamemnon, is on his way to Troy to try and overthrow Troy, and along the way they kill a sacred deer of the goddess Artemis, and she demands a human sacrifice by Agamemnon's own hand. He must kill one of his children to make amends for the killing of this sacred deer, or else she won't allow him to make it all the way to Troy. And so the whole thing is, of course, a parable, as all Greek myths are, on the notion of what is it that powerful men actually value. Do they value their ambition and their reputation above all else? Can they possibly bend the knee to external forces greater than themselves, either in service of their goal or in defiance of those external forces? Like, that's what the myth is all about. And so this is a modernization retelling of that, with Colin Farrell playing a cardiac surgeon, and Barry Keoghan being the son of a patient that didn't survive. So one of Colin Farrell's heart surgery patients didn't survive the operation, and Barry Keoghan is that patient's son. And so it's the whole idea of, Yeah, like what does Colin Farrell truly value in his life? Does he value his family as much as he espouses to value his family, or does he actually value his reputation and his power and his position in the community and the praise that he receives or the money? Like, what is it that he actually values? And Barry Keoghan's character is going to be an inexplicably like surreally powerful he's supposed to be just this sort of teenage or maybe slightly older than teenage, maybe college age boy who has lost his father and comes from a poor family and all this type of stuff, and yet has seemingly supernatural ability very much in place of Artemis in the myth. So I mean, that's the taking it from that point of view. If you just wanted to watch this movie as a straightforward telling of the narrative that it presents, nobody in this movie is human. Because nobody speaks or acts or reacts like a normal human being. Very much like Yorgos Lanthimos' other movies, the dialogue is strange, very exceedingly straightforward. Again, nobody has subtext. Everyone says exactly what they're thinking and means exactly what they say, but in a strange way. I've got to say, though, the way that Barry Keoghan did his role, there was a reason he was nominated for all kinds of awards and that for this role, because he absolutely makes this very strange dialogue work. I can absolutely believe that he was a real person who is just perhaps autistic or somewhere on the spectrum, like that type of performance. That's the sort of spin that he puts on it, and it works. It works very well. Whereas like Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman, we've seen them in lots of roles. We know the ability of their acting. So when they sound very strange and stilted and rather emotionless, except for wild outbursts that they have, like, that's not just how they always act. It's very clearly a choice. It's very clear that they're directed to be this way, but they don't come across as real human beings in any way because of that. The dialogue is not believable, and the reactions are not the way any normal human being would react, but that's entirely intentional. But Barry Keoghan somehow makes it work. He puts a different spin on it that is really a standout in this movie. So like other Yorgos Lanthimos movies, there is a focus on the score. It is jarring, it is unsettling, and that is the point. And it does a tremendous amount of the heavy lifting of making this movie not feel utterly silly.
Right.
Giving it the sense of foreboding and that there really is genuine heft to this movie. A lot of that falls on the shoulders of the score, I've got to be honest, because just examining, like I say, the straight ahead narrative, if you don't take it as an update of the Greek myth or anything like that, it ends up being silly because the reactions are so unhuman-like, because there's no way I would ever believe that Nicole Kidman's character would say and react the way that she does in this movie. But, she's not meant to be a real human being. She's meant to be a stand-in for a mythical character, that type of thing. So you kind of got to take it that way, in my opinion. But yeah, like I say, Barry Keoghan's performance is tremendous. It's well shot, it's well made, all of those things are enjoyable. I watched this on Amazon Prime, just streaming, so I'm sure I didn't see it in the maximum quality, and it might have been even better with full lossless audio and the maximum dynamic range to get some of those really jarring moments in the score. But yeah, overall I do enjoy it, but you got to be a little bit aware of what you're getting into, because if you just want to enjoy a straight ahead drama narrative, that's not what this is. It's all metaphorical.
All right, that doesn't sound great. I'll be honest with you. The Rehearsal sounds more interesting to me. But,
Rehearsal is well worth a watch. Yes.
Yeah. All right. AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You come to the website, find our shows, our show notes, links to any products or articles that we reference during our answers to your questions, as well as a link to a Flickr album so you can follow along with the pictures that people send us when they send us their questions.
That's right.
Find us at facebook.com/AVRant podcast, youtube.com/AVRant. You can contact Rob directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. Let's see here. Let's thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is go into avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. This week, Keegan did that, so thank you very much, Keegan.
Yes, indeed. Very nice to see Keegan. Thank you so much for the PayPal donation. We appreciate that financial support.
Yeah, I think we got another one, but just happened, so I'm going to save it for next week.
That'll be for
next
week.
Where I said something. Okay, just hold on. bro. We got you. If you want to support us monthly, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast. Become a monthly contributor. We currently have 121 patrons over at patreon.com. And we want to thank each and every one of you. Boy, I barely got through that. Oh.
Yeah, is it like
I ran out of breath
allergies
right at the
going
end
on
there.
over there? Is it just the coffee burps? What's
No,
happening over
it
on
wasn't. It was
Thompson?
just I just didn't take a breath, and I was like, oh, let me see. I think I can make it without taking a breath.
Well, I'll reiterate, it is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 121 patrons holding strong over there.
All right, we got some notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going. We got a whole bunch of names here, and then we got names with comments. So here we go, right? And we'll take a breath this time.
Big one.
Jason, Mohsen, Gurinder, Greg, Martin, Neil, Dan, Theo, Dave, Keith, Andy, Jeff, Mike, and Brandon are just the people who gave us some thanks. And then we got some thanks with some comments. We got Infinite Gary, who appreciates that we don't allow ads on YouTube other than at the very beginning. He's always having to hit skip or press a mute button when the loud and annoying ads interrupt everybody else's YouTube videos, but not ours.
That's right.
Jefferson says specifically to me, and apparently not to Rob, that I have created a new podcast numbering standard and that he shouldn't back down. UBU, he says to me. I did not create it. Rob did, but whatever.
That's why I found it interesting that it was specifically addressed to Tom, and all the comments were specifically towards Tom. And I'm like, all right, well, there you go.
My wife is very irritated with us, by the way, that we have not.
Oh.
We are still on this 99.9 episode thing. She would like us to get going. And so when I get back from this little road trip, you and I are going to have to buckle down to get it done.
Yep.
Did we already have a Martin? We did. We had a Martin A, and here's Martin D. Martin D tried asking some AI chatbots some home theater questions, and he was surprised at how detailed some of the responses were. Have we tried comparing AI answers to home theater questions to the answers we would have given?
I sure have.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Russell, he says, forget episode 1000. Once we make it through the full alphabet, just skip straight to calling it episode 2000 instead. Andreas lives in Sweden, has been listening to us for years, but has never written us until now. And Mark V says, Happy Father's Day. So thank you to all of you for thanking us. And here we go. All the names, only the names. Jason, Mohsen, Gurinder, Greg, Martin A, Neil, Dan, Theo, Dave, Keith, Andy, Jeff, Mike, Brandon, Infinite Gary, Jefferson, Martin D, Russell, Andreas, and Mark V. Thank you for thanking us.
Indeed. Well, I guess you're going to hear them one more time because I got to try it all in one breath. So here we go. Jason, Mohsen, Gurinder, Greg, Martin A, Neil, Dan, Theo, Dave, Keith, Andy, Jeff, Mike, Brandon, Infinite Gary, Jefferson, Martin D, Russell, Andreas, and Mark V. Thank you all very much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions. And then to head back to Martin D's question there about the AI. Yes, so I definitely have, and it is something that I've mentioned on this podcast before. Very, very plausible sounding answers. You know, I've never entered a home theater related question into the chatbot and gotten back an answer where I'm like, well, that is like so far out to lunch that it's nowhere near the ballpark. No. Very plausible sounding answers. But when you dig into a little bit more of the nitty gritty details, there are definitely still errors that are present. You know, it's things like they'll say, you know, look for the sound and video settings. Well, those names don't actually appear, you know, it'll be audio and picture or something like that. It's like, okay, it got me definitely in the ballpark and I can make my way from there, but it's not quite right. It'll just have small details that are not quite right, or it'll go on a little bit too long in some cases and start to clearly be hallucinating things that are not part of it, you know, not the part of the real answer. But yes, it always sounds very plausible. Then the other fun thing I did is just, I looked up some things about myself where I know the real answers. And not things that AI could not possibly know because it's never been posted online about me. I mean, things that I have said or posted directly on AVRant. And I'll even specify AVRant in the prompt so that it knows where to look. And I might even feed it the YouTube link or something like that so that it knows where to look. And it's like some of that stuff, again, all very plausible sounding. Like it mentioned that, you know, Rob H has a theater that features Ascend acoustic speakers, but it got all of the models wrong, you know? So it's like, well, I've
Really?
said those things it's posted on Facebook. It's like I've written out the model numbers in some of the show notes and stuff. It's like, well, it just made it up. It looked up the Ascend speakers and decided it'll pick these ones and put it in there. So it's like, okay, like
Knew
again,
they were Ascend, and then knows what the popular models are.
That's
and
right.
Then,
That's
and then
right.
Put those two things together. I see.
That's right. So it's like, yeah, it's not implausible. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility type of answers, but it's also not fully correct. So that is why I say do not take any of those answers as gospel. If it's helpful enough to point you in the right direction and you can take it from there, I don't have a big problem with that. Okay. But just don't take it as gospel, and definitely don't cite it as a source and go argue with someone else online that they're wrong because you typed their question into AI and AI gave you back a different answer, and you cite that as your source and your argument for why you're right and they're wrong. You're like, nope, I don't trust it.
So this is what's been happening to me recently at the bike shop. For those of you that care, and I don't care if you don't care because I'm going to talk about it anyways. So we have had people start coming in with screenshots or with questions about our work based on what AI has told them it should be. So they'll take a picture of the cable routing on their bike, and they'll say and have the chatbot tell them whether or not it's right. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things I learned I learned a lot of things early, but one of the early mantras of the bike shop is don't assume it was ever done right in the first place. Right. Don't assume it came right from the factory. Don't assume that what is on the bike is what's supposed to be on the bike, or the way that it was done on the bike is the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, so that when you take it apart, make the repair, and then put it back together, you don't necessarily put it back exactly the way it was when it came in.
So one of the things in particular is if you have external cable routing, for those of you that understand this, a lot of times it goes into, for specifically gear cable, which is what controls your derailleurs, they'll come out of the shifter somewhere, either through the back and then underneath the bar tape, or out the sides. For some older 9-speed shifters, it's pretty common to have it come out the side of the shifter and then go into the frame, not into it, but maybe into a cable stop that the cable runs along the frame, downwards towards the bottom of the bottom bracket there. And what we always do is, if we can, we have the cable run to the opposite side of the bike and then cross the cable on, because the cable is just out in the open after that until it gets to the bottom of the bike, which is good. You don't want full cable housing all the way to the back of the bike because the cable housing flexes, and having the cable out of the cable housing gives it more precise control. So we try to cross it underneath the bike. We do this for a reason. The most important reason is because the cable housing itself, if you have it on the same side as the shifter itself, the housing has to come out and then do this weird sort of cross in front of the handlebars or in front of the bike, and then come back into the frame, and the housing will rest against the frame. And you get this rubbing right there, and you'll see manufacturers will put little stickers there that are supposed to protect the frame or whatever. The stickers never last. It always rubs through, and then you get all these cable rubs. And it messes up the paint, and it if it's a carbon fiber bike, it actually can eventually damage the bike itself. So we try to cross it over to the other side of the bike, because then the natural pressure of the cable itself pulls the housing away from the bike, and therefore you don't get this rub. Okay. Well, we had a guy come in the other day, and he was like, well, ChatGPT says you did the cable routing wrong. That's not the way it's supposed to be done. I'm like, no, we did that for a reason. And then it was just one question after another that was just like that. ChatGPT says this, or he didn't actually say that, but he would send us screenshots of Google AI, basically saying this is wrong and this is how it's supposed to be done. And we're like, no, we do all this stuff for a reason. And there's just because that's not the way it's typically done doesn't mean that what we're doing is wrong.
Or
we're doing it in the way that
factory.
we feel is more right. And the reason it comes from the factory, that most bikes are done that way, is because people have always seen it done that way. And the reason they saw it done that way is because when they first started doing this, the cable stops were on either side of the down tube that goes towards the bottom bracket, and you can't cross the wires over the cables over underneath the bike, because they'll hit the bike itself, or they'll hit they would actually rub against the bike, which would be worse. So if we can, we do it, but a lot of times we can't because of the older bikes that won't allow it. But the newer bikes have the cable stops on the bottom of the down tube, so you can just do it really easily. And it's just a better way to do it. It's just overall better for the bike and for shifting and for the whole thing. I have the same sort of cable routing on my bike, but my bike is from the 90s and my frame is from the 90s. It's a titanium frame and the cable stops are on either side. I can't cross it over. I wish I could. I would, but I can't. So I don't. But this is the problem we're running into with ChatGPT or AI bots giving information. Is not that they're wrong. It's just that it empowers people who really don't know what they're talking about to having a very strong opinion about something.
Can you imagine being a doctor or a nurse?
I can't imagine. It is valid to ask a question and say, hey, how come you did it this way? It is absolutely inappropriate for you to go into somebody who is an expert at what they do and say that's you're doing it wrong because the Google AI says that.
Yes.
You see this a lot too with these posts that people will do where it's basically like pictures of bridges or traffic patterns, and they'll like draw a line across it that's straight, and they're like, why didn't they do it this way? This is wrong. You're saying that groups of engineers who got together to design a bridge didn't think of it. Of going straight across.
Right.
And if they made it differently, they just did it because they're dumb or because they're wasting money or something. There's always, it's the hubris of it is just baffling to me. So, that's what we run into. So, yes, can you ask ChatGPT HT questions or home theater questions and get answers that are close to right? Yes. But it will not be able to answer questions that are very specific or that take into account all the factors because of what the gear you have and everything else, your specific situation. We look at your room. We look at your budget. We look at all these things and factor all that in. And ChatGPT says, Rob has Ascend speakers. These are the most popular Ascend speakers. Therefore, Rob has these Ascend speakers. It's not wrong. Rob has Ascend speakers.
I mean, it is factually wrong, but it's
well, you can see how it got there. And
absolutely. Yes.
But it's still, if you were just to believe it blindly,
but if you want to come and argue with me about exactly which model of Ascend speakers I have and point to a chatbot to explain to me why I'm wrong about which speakers I own, I'm gonna declare that the AI is in fact in error.
I will point out to you that when I had my house surveyed a while back, before my last house surveyed, before we bought it, the surveyor had mislabeled the tree in the backyard as a pool.
Okay. And
we looked at it. My wife and I looked at it and said, "What does this say pool here?" So we called them and said, "Hey, this is not a pool. This is a tree.
Yeah.
And you've mislabeled it." And they came back and said, no, there's a pool at that property. And I was like, come to the property and point to the pool, and I will happily not bother you about this anymore. And they went back and they looked at their pictures and went, oh, yeah, that's a tree. Sorry about that. People are confident. They're confident in their opinions, no matter how wrong they are. And people hate being wrong. So ChatGPT or Google AI or whatever convinces them that, hey, here's a piece of information and I say it confidently, therefore it must be right. I mean, they take that as gospel and they go with it. Just their ignorance is on display, and they don't know what they're talking about, and it's not a good thing.
No,
I think
we'll see how it all goes. Let's move on. We've got oodles to get to here.
In the news, Kaleidescape released their new flagship player model, the Strato K. Okay, I'm going to be honest with these. When these things first started coming out, I was like, cool, these are cool names. I'm fine with these names. But now we just have different letters after the word Strato, and I can't keep them straight.
And they're not in any particularly discernible order. So,
That's the problem.
It is getting a little bit confusing at this point with 5 of them with seemingly random letters attached to their names. But yes, the newest
either
one
change
is the
the letters
Strato
to make them make more sense, or put them in alphabetical order, or something. Make them V2s or something, V3s. So it's priced at $5,000. The K is Kaleidescape's first player to include HDMI 2.1 output at 24 gigabits per second, which allows it to support native 8K resolution output up to 8K 30 HDR10 with 420 chroma subsampling. So it's not exactly full bandwidth there. No. Or the new format that Kaleidescape is introducing called 4K Cinematic. I love it when we name things to make them sound impressive, and I'm like, that just... I'm already distrustful of this because of the name. 4K Cinematic is still just 4K resolution up to 60 frames per second with Dolby Vision, but with full 444 chroma and a substantially higher bitrate. Movies you already have purchased or upgraded to 4K in your Kaleidescape library that are available in the new 4K cinematic format will be available to you at no extra charge. And if you're buying a movie for the first time, the 4K cinematic versions do not cost any extra yet. The Strato K itself it has the exact same dimensions as the Strato V and the Strato C. Again, do these things spell something eventually?
Nope, I don't think so.
And just like the Strato V, it comes with a 960 gigabyte solid state drive built in, so you are not required to have an additional Kaleidescape server, although it can obviously support them for much more local storage space. And a huge price tag. There is a cooling fan inside, but only activates when it's needed, and a single Ethernet port tops out at 1 gigabit. So at this point, that is actually the bottleneck to download speeds, with a typical 4K cinematic movie taking about 15 minutes to download on a gigabyte internet connection, which I guess if you have one of these, you probably have. I don't know. Kaleidescape slightly adjusted their prices, with the price of the Strato V actually coming down a little. Imagine that these days. So the new Strato K sits at the top of the lineup at $5,000. The V is now $4,000. The C and E are both $3,000, and the entry level 2K resolution only M. This is I hate it so much. Is priced at $2,000. All models are available right now, and since we just introduced it, AVRant listener Greg wanted to ask, how noticeable is the new 4K cinematic format actually going to be compared to the regular 4K versions, or even the 2K resolution version that still supports HDR and lossless audio for that matter? So what is it? I have to go all the way back to the top. So it's 4K.
It is.
With full 444 chroma, which I don't...
That's the main difference, to be honest.
The bit rate is higher, but who cares about that? It's just the 4K. Right? I mean, the 444 chroma, which I mean, technically can make a difference, I think, but for actual, I would be surprised if you would notice it. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, so the issue when you have 420 chroma subsampling at a low bit rate is that due to the compression, and so you've got chroma subsampling, which is like a form of color compression to begin with, and then you also further digitally compress the signal. When you do that, you are really quite likely to run into scenarios where you have some banding, where you have some of that posterization that you can notice in an image, or something's doing that slow fade to black, and you sort of see like concentric rings in the black as it's fading out, where it's really just supposed to be a smooth gradation, and you're not supposed to see banding or rings or posterization or anything like that. So the high bit rate by itself would do more to ameliorate that than anything, but going to the full 444 with no chroma subsampling, as long as the bit rate is high enough to sustain it, there should be no signs of any banding or posterization or color rings or anything like that going on. That should be the potential advantage over something at a lower bit rate with the chroma subsampling. Now, I honestly don't think, like, given that Kaleidescape was already giving you high bit rate 420 chroma subsample, but 4K resolution high bit rate feeds before, the likelihood that you're genuinely going to be able to see a difference between the 4K cinematic and the 4K version that they had before, I think that's pretty darn debatable. But here's the thing: I actually think many people might end up genuinely seeing a difference on their screen, because 444 is not like natively supported on a lot of displays unless you manually put your display into a PC mode. Right? Like lots of OLEDs, lots of projectors, you have to manually put them into their PC mode before they will fully accept a 444 signal and show it to you, without changing it. And then those modes very often, like even if you have the setup that says, apply these settings to all inputs, very often, because the PC mode is like a specifically, you have to manually activate that mode. Sometimes the only way you can do it is by going in and manually changing the name of the input to PC. Like, there's strange things like that, but if you go to Artings or listen to any of Vincent Theo's videos, he'll very often describe how the only way you can get 444 is by doing a manual PC mode or relabeling the input that you're using. And then when you do that, it very often doesn't carry over all of the picture settings that you did before. So to me, there is every probability that people will genuinely see a difference on their screen, but not because the source material looks so much better, but because unbeknownst to them, the picture mode changed, or they had to manually put it into PC mode and they didn't, or something like that. I could see there being visible differences for that reason.
It doesn't sound like it's going to make it that. Okay. Anyways, Valve finally announced the price and reservation launch date for their much anticipated Steam machine. Let's not beat around the bush. The lowest price you'll pay is just over $1,000, $1,050. That's for the base model with only a 512 gigabytes SSD, a single 16 gigabyte stick of RAM, and no controller in the box. A bundle with a Steam controller will cost $80 more at $1130. I mean, that's a $20 savings over buying them separately. So huge difference. Then with the 2 terabyte solid state drive model with the 2 8 gigabyte sticks of RAM is priced at $1350, with the bundle that includes a controller and 2 alternative faceplates is more. It's once again $80 more expensive at $1430. So it doesn't come with a controller at $1350.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Early review units were sent out to media outlets and influencers, and by all accounts, the Steam machine is basically on par in terms of graphical processing with a power with an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5. The digital-only versions of those consoles are currently priced at $600, with either a 1 terabyte or 825 gigabytes of solid-state storage. The 2 terabyte plus disk drive Xbox Series X is $900. As is the PlayStation 5 Pro, but the PS5 Pro can outperform the Steam machine in terms of raw processing power, so that's where things stand as far as comparisons go. So why would anybody pay this much for a Steam machine?
I wouldn't.
An excellent question.
Yes.
That I have no answer for other than fanboyism. That would be the big thing.
I mean, there's a little bit of explanation, but yeah, anyway.
Okay, well, unlike the consoles, the Steam machine is a full PC. By default, it runs Valve's own Steam OS, which is their own gaming-centric proprietary version of Linux. It boots up quickly, supports HDMI-CC, and gives you an interface that works nicely with an handheld controller. But there's nothing stopping you from loading Windows onto the Steam machine if you want to. And Valve fully intends for you to load Proton, which translates Windows-only games into a format that SteamOS can play. Hardware-wise, the Steam machine is basically a 6-inch cube, almost all of which is filled with a heat sink and its custom 120 millimeter cooling fan. AMD laptop processing and graphics are on board, and the power supply is built in, so it is a quiet and very small PC that's only slightly larger than the Nintendo GameCube and smaller than the Xbox Series X. And if you're determined to buy one, well, good luck. You can sign up anytime before 10 a.m. Pacific time on June 25th for a chance to reserve a single system or bundle. It is not first come, first serve, so there's no point in rushing. Everyone who signs up goes into a lottery system. You can sign up for more than one system or bundle. If your name is drawn more than once, you'll only be given the chance to reserve the highest price option that you signed up for.
Yup.
Emails will be sent out, and you'll then have 72 hours to complete your purchase. God help you if it goes to spam. If you have to already have a Steam account, and you have to have bought something on Steam prior to April 27th of this year. Okay, I know that sounds bad, but I understand the thought process, which is we want to make sure these are real people.
That's right. They're trying to get away from the scalpers and the bots who set up a whole bunch of brand new accounts and spam this thing to no end. So I somewhat appreciate that.
Yes,
but
my first thought was, ugh, but then it actually makes sense. And if your name isn't drawn, you go onto a waiting list in randomized order for a single system or bundle. You don't get to choose which one other than when you originally sign up. And after June 25th, if it becomes first come, first served waiting list. We should also note that you do, in fact, have the option of not buying this thing if you value your money.
Because all of the videos out there, they just seem to assume that, you have no choice. The price might be way higher than everybody anticipated. Explainable due to the ridiculous RAM and storage shortages and all that. I'm not saying that
they couldn't have made it look better. It looks like the base module of a boombox thing that that you might buy. It looks. I don't.
It's a
get
6-inch cube. It's fairly nondescript.
Yeah, they could have done something to it to make it descript.
Well, you can change the front panels. That's all the customization.
I mean, yeah.
But no, you just because if you do support Valve and Steam, if you've bought a lot of games on Steam and you're like, hey, it would be kind of fun to have a console-like system that can play my gigantic Steam library with the. I will say the sales on Steam as far as buying games, that's unbeatable. Yes. You're not going to find a broader selection at lower prices than you will on Steam when those sales happen. So, that is very enticing, but you're not actually obligated to buy the Steam machine. You could put together your own computer, which almost certainly will not be this small. The computer you build yourself will not be this physically small, but you can do it even with the crazy RAM and storage prices right now. That is more powerful for less money than the Steam machine. So, yeah, you don't have to actually buy this thing. I just want to let you know that.
All right. I thought this was a handheld unit, and I clicked on it, and I saw what it was. And then the extra faceplates are, yes, I know. I realize that now. I realized that the extra faceplates are red or walnut. And
those are the ones that come with them. The ones that come with the maximum bundle are the red and the walnut. They're going to put out you can 3D print. They're going to put out the files so that you can 3D print whatever you want, and people already have. So,
wow. This comes from Greg, who let us know about this. Ascend Acoustics has not posted the listing on their homepage just yet, but they have finally completed their Signature SE2 series speaker lineup, and within about a month's time, you'll be able to order the new CBM-170SE2 bookshelf speaker model to go along with the CMT 340 SE2 and the HTM 200 SE2. I've been saying those letters and numbers back, for a long time now. So I guess I'm not mad at them for being the same ones, but I feel like they should just come out with new names. Just like all the other Ascend speaker models now, the new CBM-170SE2 was designed using Ascend's clippable near-field scanner. David Fabricant, the owner and lead designer of Ascend, goes into great detail about the long and iterative process of developing the new model, which ultimately required its own uniquely customized woofer in order to meet David's design goals. By the clippable measurements, the new SE2 version has deeper bass extension, more linear on-axis frequency response, wider and more even off-axis response, and a smoother estimated in-room response. The cabinet and looks are also new, although they have the exact same dimensions as their previous CBM-170SE model. The price will be higher, but David has explicitly stated that they will sell for under $500 a pair. So if you're interested, keep an eye on the Ascend website or give them a phone call. Do we have a picture of this? Are you showing it?
Yep, I've been showing them on the stream there, but yeah. So I mean, compared to the estimated in-room response, Clipwell measured CBM-170SE versus CBM-170SE2. Yeah, the CBM-170SE2 definitely extends deeper, well down into the crossover region. Absolutely no reason to think that you'd have to cross it over any higher than 80 hertz. And then yes, a very nice, smooth, even response. Just a gradual slope down, very, very linear frequency response. These should be. I mean, David almost always labels his speakers as an 8 ohm nominal, but these should be labeled as a 4 ohm nominal. That's really what they are. But a pretty darn easy load to handle in here. And then, yeah, nice wide even dispersion. I mean, out to at least like 45 degrees until you get up past 12 kilohertz. So yes, it's a well-designed speaker. It should perform well, and yeah, very, very nice frequency response. It should match up very, very nicely with the CMT340 SE2 and the HDM200 SE2. So you can have the exact same series all around finally.
Which one is the one you're showing them right now? Which one is the one? Is it the new one? The left one?
On the right is the new one. The old one is on the left.
I like the old one better. It has a rounded
It was
corner.
more rounded, right?
Yeah, I like that one better. These are no offense. I'm gonna go ahead. Come at me with this. I think looks matter, and I know all you people are like, no, it's all about the performance, and I care more about performance. It's going to be a dark room anyways, and I've said those words. I've said them, and I believe them. But at the same time, when I'm looking at a speaker that I want to buy, I'm like, this is. It's just not attractive to me. I'm not saying it's not a good speaker. I'm sure I know it's a good speaker. I can see that from the measurements, and by all accounts, it is. But it's derpy looking. That's what I'm going to go with.
Stout, matte black box. It is nothing fancy.
And the tweeter's too low. I'm just going to say the tweeter's too low. The tweeter looks weird down there. It just does. I'm not saying it doesn't sound good. I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy it. You should buy it. Go buy 1,000 of them. I don't care. Be Ascend fanatics, and you know what? Buy your Steam machine at the same time. But it's a derpy looking speaker. Okay, it's not a speaker. It's a shame too because
you can buy 2 pairs of these for less than a Steam machine.
That's right. I love the aluminum. What is that? The phase plug, right? The phase plug that's in there. I love that. I love if I have a speaker that has that, I don't want to have grills on because I want to show those off because they're cool looking. Not this speaker. Not this speaker.
You're gonna have the grills on.
I'm gonna have the grills on because it looks like it has a big forehead, and I've got a big forehead, and it's a problem. I'm telling you.
There's still grill posts. It's not magnetic grills on this.
Yeah. Comments from our listeners. Mohsen in Australia appreciated our advice from last week. He'll try using the SVS app to boost the 40 to 60 hertz region in his pair of PB3000 subs to see if he can deliver the added kick you in the chest tactile sensation he is hoping for before he goes and buys an additional pair of 15-inch subs that he already ordered and are on the way.
Probably. He just wanted to share a few updated photos since the previous ones didn't have his new riser and the current layout in them. So here's some pictures for those of you on the listening to this only. You have to go to the Flickr album. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can just glance over and there will be some pictures of a theater with a bunch of stuff in it. Yep. It is a very blacked out theater, except it's got a whole bunch of blue trim lighting. So
yeah, which there it is. Just fine.
But there's his new riser. Can't say it looks significantly different from the old riser, but he's happy with it, and he's covered up what didn't used to be black chairs with new black covers. So it is very close to completely blacked out in there. Looks good.
Can't be bothered. Alan and Daniel. Okay, so last week Dan, who's different than Daniel, this is a different person, was looking for an easy way to control his old Sony receiver that's connected to a Weem Pro audio streamer in his garage. That's the one where I said that you should create a robotic finger.
That's coming
to
up.
Turn it on and off. Since Dan said he lost the original Sony remote a long time ago, we suggested the Sofabaton X1S with the sub-based control and the ability to do everything from the Sofabaton app, and that might be a good solution for him. Well, Alan went to mention the Amp Genie. It costs more at $400, but it senses the audio signal from any source device and then automatically sends out IR commands, which with support for 11 AV receiver brands, including Sony. Mm-hmm. All right, but $400, man, that's pricey. I don't think is that it. I feel like the X1S is about $400 anyway.
No, X1S is $170. That's the X2 that's $360.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum, Daniel wanted to suggest SwitchBot because I was right on track when I suggested an actual mechanical device to physically push the receiver's power button. It only costs $30. Thank you, Daniel.
Right.
And with a simple app, you can have the SwitchBot physically press a button for you or integrate it into your home automation system. I am going to click on this link immediately because this is awesome. Please look like a finger. It doesn't. No, it looks like a charger for your iPhone. But that's really cool. How does it work?
It's just a little physical actuator.
It sticks to the device. You stick it on the front of it.
Yes. It will only push one button.
Well, that's for $30. What do you want, man? It pushes a button. It's got to be battery powered, huh?
It is.
Yes,
you do have to recharge it at some point, but the battery is supposed to last a long time.
That is insanely awesome.
Now that is less than a Sofabaton X1S. There's no question about it.
That is too awesome. That is too cool. I love it.
I can get more on board with that than the Amp Genie because I mean the Amp Genie's a nice idea. I don't dislike the device itself. Whatever. It's the $400 price tag.
And if you were doing more than one thing at the same time, it
Right.
makes sense. You know, or if you're this thing you have to charge every once in a while. Same problem with my doorbells. I have to take them off and charge them because I didn't run power to them, and it's a little irksome. Like I'm leaving for a couple of days, and I'm like, I better charge the doorbells before I leave, so I can see how many kids my children's have in the house while I'm gone. Martin, our discussion of the total game changer GSS subwoofer driver last week reminded him of another revolutionary subwoofer driver that he actually still owns to this day. 20 years ago, a company called Tymphany released their LAT 500, a linear array transducer. It was a cylindrical shape, about 5 inches in diameter and a little over a foot long, with a voice coil on either end, and each voice coil would move 3 cones in dual opposed configuration. What? Voice coil 1 would move cones 1, 3, and 5, while voice coil 2 would move cones 2, 4, and 6. So you had these alternating cones all moving in dual opposed operation with one another, which Tymphany claimed created the same output as a pair of dual opposed 10-inch drivers. Oh, I remember this thing.
Do you? I had never seen this before. So.
I think I remember seeing this. It was used in some car audio subwoofers, notably the brand Alpine, but it was never a sales success, so Tymphany discontinued them after just a short time. Too bad. They might have been perfect for a modern soundbar system. Look at this thing, dude. This thing, it needs to be covered in carpet and just thrown in your trunk to like roll around as it does this thing. It's so stupid. Yeah, I seem to remember something like this. I mean, technically, sure. I mean, I'm sure their claims are somewhat accurate. Anyways,
this thing was news to me, and it is interesting. I like when people try stuff, but
we should try things.
Yeah,
you never know what's going to hit. Like I said, that Sure Stop technology was like super hot for brakes for a while, and then everybody realized it sucked. And then Guardian Bikes brought it back and said, "Hey, look, we're not going to mention it Sure Stop, but we have this new braking solution that has been around for 30 years or 20 years or whatever it was." Anyways, questions here. The Polyester Pimp, as he requested or she requested, I don't know. I'm assuming it's a he, because no self-respecting woman would be called the Polyester Pimp. Is looking for a subwoofer upgrade and room treatments. Hey, I know a guy who's got some extra room treatments just lying in his living room right now.
They're in the attic
because we had him take them all down. You might be able to sell them to you for cheap. Anyways, the home theater area is roughly 14 feet from front to back with an 8-foot ceiling. There's a wall with a large window on the left, but the right side is totally open to the rest of the house, so it's nothing even close to an enclosed space. There's a door leading outside on the front wall, so the TV stand and the front speakers are actually pulled way forward to leave a 50-inch gap from the back of the TV stand to the front wall and where the door is. So even with the custom Roger and Chris couch, I don't know what that means. Custom Roger and Chris couch position. Oh, it's a type of couch.
It's a brand,
positioned close to the back wall. The viewing distance to the 65-inch LG C1 OLED is only about 7 feet. Yeah, I see. Okay, there's a door right behind the front right speaker.
That's correct.
And he's got the whole thing pulled forward so you can open that door without hitting the speaker. Hey, fair enough. You're dealing with what you got to deal with here. I get it.
And there are some speakers up on the ceiling as well. Very nicely mounted, I must say.
I see them now. Yes. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Those. Yeah. Sure.
Looks good.
And that looks fine. Okay, so they're running, let's see here, a 5.2.4 configuration with a Marantz receiver 40, Marantz Cinema 40 receiver powering KEF, R11 towers, R2 center, R3 surrounds, along with 4 Origin Acoustics SBR 41 speakers mounted on the ceiling, and a pair of older JBL PB12 subs. Simply due to the layout of the room and the available floor space, one of the subs is on the back wall just to the right of the large couch, and the other sub is on the front left wall just below the window and just in front of the couch. Gaming is a top priority with lots of classic and retro systems stored inside the BDI corridor TV stand with a retro Tink 4K upscaling them nicely. Okay, let's take a look. Let me take another look at this. I'm going to look at this. So there's a subwoofer on the left wall, and there's a subwoofer. I can't see the other subwoofer. I don't know what
it's just to the right of the couch. There's a black box there.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but there is no right wall. There is no
right wall. Yeah, that's not pictured, but just imagine behind the camera, there's just open space to the rest of the house.
Okay, I see this.
Yeah.
All right. The current subs aren't cutting it. Their noticeably start to roll off right around 35 hertz, and this person and their wife are well aware that they're missing out on lots of bass below that. In addition to games, they also watch movies and listen to music on this system, so deeper, more powerful bass would be appreciated. One idea is to simply replace the 2 JBL subs with bigger, better subs, but they need to be positioned in the same spot, so footprint size and being able to integrate them into the room are major considerations. The other idea would be to go DIY. There's a small gap between the left wall below the window and the left side of the couch. It is a small gap. It's very narrow. And they're thinking they can make a 12-inch deep, like I said, small gap, 5-foot long enclosure and put a couple of big subwoofer drivers into it. What do we think? Let's see here. So the JBL...
I am not a fan of that particular DIY idea. That it would not be my choice.
You would need some racetrack drivers on either side of this thing, I guess.
It might be a reasonable...
The JBL PB12 is 15 by 17 and then 17 and a half inches tall. So they give us
just because they're saying that, they want approximately the same footprint that's going on in there.
Scream for cylinder subs. I know this is
probably
probably not what they
want. That's certainly going to be one of the options I'm going to suggest in here. Yes.
That's the floor space you're really going for.
Pretty darn
close. And then
close.
output-wise, though, unfortunately, can you get subs with greater volume and lower extension? Almost certainly. That's not even a question. But will you be able to experience them sitting in this corner of this house as the bass escapes into everything else?
I mean, you can definitely improve upon, like the PB12s from JBL were no great heck, to be honest. They do roll off at 35 hertz. You can definitely do better than that in a noticeable way. The question is going to be how much you want to spend. So
yes,
I've got a number of
So do we have a budget for this, or we don't know what the
no budget
is?
was given. So that's why I've got a bunch of different ones that you could possibly look at. So I'll throw these out there for you. You can peruse them on your own and see if any of them float your boat. But in terms of the most output you could possibly get at a somewhat reasonable price and a somewhat manageable footprint, we're talking about an 18.5-inch square footprint, so bigger than the footprint right now, but then we're also talking 32 inches tall, and that would be HSU's VTF TN1 subwoofer, which is priced at $1,250 each, and then there's $99 shipping on each of those subs on top of it. So it's $1,350 you're talking about for these subs. They are substantially taller. They do have a noticeably bigger footprint, because, I mean, you might think, we're only going from 15 inches wide to 18.5 inches wide. It's like, that is very noticeable when you bring that thing into your house. But these are 15-inch drivers, the largest that I'm going to suggest here, at a somewhat reasonable price, at a somewhat manageable footprint, but definitely getting taller. Now, as Tom alluded to, the ones that I think are probably the best if you can afford them in this scenario would be a pair of SVS PC 2000 Pro cylinder subs. $1,100, that includes the shipping price. So these are 16 and a half inches in diameter, because they are a circle, being the cylinder shape, and then 34 inches tall. So you are absolutely trading height for footprint, but in terms of like getting the most you could, like absolute maximum bang for the buck, plus what I really like is the PC2000 Pros, they come with the isolation feet, with the damping feet.
Right.
That's already there, part of the price. So if you can manage that price for a pair of these, I do think that might be probably the very best that you can do. If the price has to be lower, has to be half of what we've just talked about, I could point you at the RSL Speedwoofer 10S Mark II, simply because they have a very similar physical size to what you're doing, and they're only $500 each, but they play lower than the JBL PB12s, but they cannot contend with a wide open house. They just don't have that kind of output capability. They are, in fact, 10-inch drivers. So
I'm on the Power Sound Audio website, because when I think of high output, that's what I think of.
Sure.
But, I mean, you can find woofers, you can find, like some, I mean, they're not cheap. Let's be honest.
No,
Power
and
Sound
they're not
Audio,
small footprints. Like, even
not.
their smallest sealed one is big.
Yeah. So I'm looking at, because you have to have, as far as I'm concerned, you have to have a ported design. I don't see in this room that there being anything. So they have a depth, width, height, right?
Sure.
So the depth is like the smallest one I can find that's ported. It has a 15-inch driver in it. It's already going to be monster.
That's right.
Right, is 24 by 17 by 24. The height is 24, right? So you're now, I mean, in theory, one of those dimensions is still one of the dimensions you had, and it just would stick further into the room. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is the perfect solution for you. This is literally the cheapest one, the EV1513M.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Which
it's
is
like
one of the reasons I didn't
$1,700.
include it in my list. I'm just like, I think we're overstepping the footprint type of thing.
There's no doubt. So my question to you is, like, I understand that you're wanting to you're wanting more out base. You're wanting, and even if you were, just say you're like cost no object, I'll get the biggest subs that you think that will contend with my space, and we took into consideration everything that's going on in this room. But you had more space, more footprint area. We could put anything we really wanted in there. Even if we were to do all of that, there's still a chance that you're actually sitting in a null that will just absorb
Possibly.
all, a lot of the bass is just going to be gone. So, it's for me, this is a real crapshoot. I think that you should get something more powerful. I think you should spend the money for the SVS ones. And the reason I think that is because dimensionally it works the best.
Yes.
Okay.
Looks wise, I think it works the best too.
Yeah. Looks wise, I think it's good. Because one of these dimensions is 15 and on the JBLs, and that I think that there's a image someplace in here that shows it's pretty well tucked in there, and it looks like it's the 15 is the one that's tucked in there.
But I mean, they do have a little bit of wiggle room in front of that couch, so. Yeah. You can, like what I'm saying is if you go for 15 and a half inches, I think they're going to be able to make that work. The RSL Speedwoofer 10S that I mentioned, that's a 15 and a half inch cube. So I'm sure that could fit. But yeah, that's going to be a minor upgrade if you go that way. So if you go all the way up to a 17 and a half inch cube, you could get the Tone Winner SWD 2000. That is the one I threw on the list in case you are not okay with the additional height of either the HSU or the cylinder subs, because those are trading height for footprint. So this is still a 17 and a half inch cube though, so it's not small, but it is rear slot ported, but it's $1,075. That does include the shipping, but you're right up there at the same price as the PC2000 Pro. And if the height of the PC2000 Pro is not a problem, then that's the one I would go for.
Yeah. So what would be our advice for adding acoustic panels to the setup? The front wall and the left wall are main candidates, but they wouldn't want to cover the window on the left. And the back wall is kind of an option, but the surround speakers and the couch are already pushed up against that wall with no plans to change that placement. And there's a built-in bookshelf smack in the middle of the back wall, so any panels would most likely be higher up into the sides, and the right side is totally open. So there's So what's our acoustic treatment plan? Okay, number one. Stop thinking of this room as the only place that needs the acoustic treatments. First of all, this is painted wood paneling. in this
looks like, yeah.
in this room. There's no world where I think it's not. I have myself painted wood paneling before. It's a nightmare to do. So whoever did it, God bless them, because it was not fun. They suffered to do that. Second, anywhere is good.
Pretty
honestly.
much when you essentially have a wide open space, because the whole right side is open.
I would also look outside this room into other parts of your house that are open to this. And the reason being is that I would go ahead and just assume that anything that can absorb some sound anywhere is a good thing. Looking behind you behind the blue couch there where the bookshelves are, I would consider just, because the books are not, you can see, even with these pictures, you can see the books are recessed.
Yeah, those might actually be DVD covers or something like that.
Yeah,
but
could be.
Regardless,
whatever's in
those
there
shelves
is for the most part recessed. So I would consider pulling them all out, putting insulation behind it, covering with a piece of little white fabric. I mean, even just staple it up there, and then putting the things back in,
and you
so they're a little bit more forward.
Replacing the picture that you have there, which is very nice. I like that picture back there. You could have the same image printed onto a panel and turn that image that is directly behind the middle of your couch. You could have that very same image printed onto a panel and turn that into a panel that fits into that nice space that you've got behind the couch on the back wall there. So I mean, honestly, front wall, back wall, that's really all that makes sense in here is putting panels on the front wall and putting panels on the back wall. You know, the left wall is essentially mostly a window and you have no right wall. So in terms of within the theater area, you're in the somewhat unusual scenario of bass trapping is kind of already taken care of by the fact that it's just open to the rest of your house. That's your bass trap. That's where the bass pressure is escaping. You don't really need to worry about that too much. So I'd be looking to try and do 4-inch thick panels, because 2-inch thick panels don't do a tremendous amount. So I'd try to do 4-inch thick panels, and I'd get a printed one that goes in the middle of the back wall into that space that you have, replace the photo there, and then you can put some 4-inch thick panels on the front wall. They can be white. They can blend right in with the existing look.
That I would absolutely get them all white. I would take that picture that you have, like I said, Rob said, and scan it in or whatever. Have it printed onto a panel that is the exact size. Like you could put it smack dab in the middle of the thing. The exact size of that opening that you have, and the same depth, and just wedge the panel in there.
Yep, either Acoustimac or Git can do a custom size, custom printed panel for you. And I wouldn't go too much beyond that, because all we're really trying to do in this scenario is bring down overall decay times a bit, and we're not even as worried about bass as we normally are, because the rest of your house is acting as your bass trap.
So as much as you can, any of these surfaces that are white and have nothing on them should have a white panel on them.
4-inch thick panel on it.
Yeah, on all of them. That's it. All right. Infinite Gary. Infinite Gary says, first of all, I might have to get up and change chairs. This chair is purgatorial. I just don't understand how my son sits on this thing.
Right.
It is so uncomfortable, and I cannot stand it. I feel like if you've watched Better Off Ted, one of the very first episodes, they make a fabric that's scratchy and they put it on chairs. It makes people uncomfortable, so they stay more focused at work until they make it too scratchy and they start going insane and trying to murder people. I think I think they just got up and ran out of the room screaming, but I would have tried to murder somebody. Anyways, so if I get up in the middle of a question and disappear, it is because I'm getting a chair from the other room.
Okay.
Infinite Gary, if you run Dirac, it gives you the option at the beginning to select what type of seating you're using, a single seat, a small seating area, basically a love seat, or a larger seating area, basically a couch. Depending on what you choose, by default, it recommends a certain number of microphone measurement positions. The larger your seating area, the more mic position it suggests by default. No such setup option appears when you run Odyssey, but you do have the option of simply stopping after a minimum of 3 mic positions and telling it to do its calculation using fewer than the max of 8 different mic locations. So if you only have a single seat, is it actually better to do fewer mic positions? Could measuring in all 8 spots actually result in less effective correction, since there would be more averaging going on? And if so, how many positions and which ones would be optimal? So Gary, from the best of my knowledge, lives alone. I went outside today and I got bit by mosquitoes, so I'm itching.
Okay.
He lives alone. And therefore, It seems that way. So the question as wrote, how many positions if you're just one person? Mm-hmm. And I would argue, generally speaking, in the theory would be just take the one position where your head is, right?
I mean, Odyssey won't even let you do that. You have to do at least 3.
You got to do at least 3, right? But in theory, you would just take the one because that's the only thing. That's the only position you care about. I would argue that you would take, as Odyssey would suggest, at least 3 because your head's not always in the same position. Mm-hmm. Your ears are a little bit further apart. But I would take them all relatively close to each other on that same seat.
I mean, you're supposed to anyway, within a maximum of a 2-foot radius bubble, and typically within a 1-foot radius bubble.
Yeah. So, yes, I would say 3 at least, and I would go, yeah, that's it. That's how I would do it. I don't think that fewer in this case is better, because if you get one position where in that one position there is an anomaly that exists, right, or if you during the course of your one measurement something happens that creates an anomaly, a truck goes by, or there's a vibration that you're not hearing but is actually happening, or there's a reflection coming off the back of the couch because you positioned the mic a little bit too close to the headrest or something like that, you would find that it would be you would have a poor room correction result because of it.
There is the possibility of overcorrecting due to not having enough spatial averaging. So I do want to take more than one. I mean, I typically default to, if I'm doing a single seat setup, I typically default to doing 5. So you have the main mic position, which is fairly self-explanatory, but then I want ones that are, a little bit forward and a little bit up, and I want ones that are a little bit back and a little bit down. So you just do that sort of mixture of 5. But honestly, the regular 8 works out pretty nicely, or it might end up being 7 or something like that. Yeah. Works out pretty nicely because you can sort of do the quadrants around that main mic position, and that works pretty well. You keep it all within about a 1-foot radius bubble, and it's unlikely that you're going to have worse results by doing more mic positions. But yeah, I typically default to 5.
So in hearing about people wanting more kick you in the chest tactile bass, if we assume that your room and your gear are all up to the task of basically being able to hit whatever target curve you want, what would be the specific target curve to aim for in order to hear the mix the way the creators intended? And if you're hitting the target curve, but you still find yourself wanting more kick you in the chest bass, could it be that you're simply wanting more than what is actually in the soundtrack mix? Or is it still the case that the calibration is just not dialed in perfectly? I will argue till I die that when Brandon Lee in The Crow first starts getting his powers and is jumping across rooftops, there's a moment where he jumps, he hits the ground, the camera stops, and then he kind of looks over the edge and sees whatever, I can't remember the character's name right now, walking down the street talking to himself. He's kind of looking through the eyes of the crow and everything else. When he hits the ground, that there should be a massive bass hit, and there is not. I clearly remember this being the case in the theaters, that there was a massive bass hit there, but in no DVD ever, or Blu-ray, or any of the things has there ever been that massive bass hit. But I assure you, I remember it being that way. So we need to stop thinking that that the creator or the mixing person or whatever is this infallible god that had that has the world's most perfect room, that absolutely could dial everything in perfectly the way that it was supposed to be, and that it should be, and that was intended to be. Because I tell you, there should be a bass hit there, and there isn't. And I don't know why, and it drives me nuts. And if I could have a different calibration for that movie, for that scene, that would just kick in right before there and just punch the heck out of the bass right for that one moment, I would do it in a heartbeat. So what does the creator intend? No one knows. Okay. No one knows what the mixing room was like. No one knows what the person who was mixing it was feeling or hearing or what their ears are like. Yes, they're professionals, and yes, they do this all the time, but they are not a robot that does it the same as everybody else. No one knows what was going on there. So if you're not hearing it the way that you want to hear it or the way that you think you should be hearing it, is it because your system is failing? Maybe. Is it because your target curve is wrong? Maybe. Is it because the mix is bad or mix isn't what you expected it to be or what you think it should be?
Isn't what you expected it to be or
Maybe.
think it should be, yes.
Yeah. Is it because the person who was mixing it was in a room that had a bass boost in one area, so they tamed it down because they wanted it to sound more even? And they tamed it down so far because of where they were, what headphones they were using, or what. I mean, there's 1,000 things that could be going on here. So, if people want to hear and experience more kick you in the chest tactile bass, they can create a target curve that will boost those bass frequencies.
Yeah.
But if those bass frequencies don't exist because the mix doesn't have them, boosting it does nothing. So,
sure. But sometimes it does have them, but they're just not as loud as you wanted them or expected them to be.
Right.
I'm going to make the argument that there's a lot less bass impact in a lot of movies than people expect or want. Many people are so used to their car audio systems or their headphones with very obviously tipped up bass that they don't get what they're expecting. And you know what? That's fine. You're allowed to tune your system the way you want to. But in terms of what should the room target curve be, what's the specific target? I mean, we've landed now on, well, you know what? Turns out Dr. Floyd Toole was right all those years ago. That's pretty general consensus. Now I'm actually just going to go back and borrow that estimated in-room response of the CBM-170SE2 from earlier in the podcast, because if you just continue to extend that line all the way down to 20 hertz, then that's about what it is. It's basically a rise of 1 decibel per octave, so that 20 hertz is about 10 to 12 decibels louder than 20,000 hertz. It's basically 1 decibel per octave of a very gradual rise. Now, some rooms, some setups will have a little bit more of a curving slope towards the bottom end, so that 20 hertz might be as much as 17 decibels louder than 20,000 hertz, but that's the sort of general range that we wind up in, is that, you know, the bass by the microphone is louder because our hearing and what we're used to in an enclosed room is that gradually that SPL will go up as we go down in frequency, but not a crazy amount, you know, basically 1 decibel per octave, which is very, very gradual. So if that's the response you are measuring, and then you listen to a movie and you're like, well, I'm confident that I'm hearing exactly what the recording said to do, which will be the case. That's what's going to be going on. But I still just want some more slam that I can feel in my chest. You are absolutely allowed to have a separate preset that gives that to you.
Yeah. Okay. No, wait. There's one more question.
One more.
Okay.
Gary,
After we discuss OLED stutter versus actual judder, Gary took a look at his LG G3 OLED clarity settings. He noticed that the OLED motion setting that claims in the description to enhance video clarity and eliminate afterimage, that's what it claims, to eliminate after images. So it sounds like a good thing, right? He's always had that setting turned off, so he tried turning it on. The only thing he noticed right away was that the image dimmed quite a bit. So what does he do? So it should be on or off? Man,
yes.
Hey, I don't have a problem. But do I have a problem?
It's fair.
That's like every question.
There's a setting right there. He's never tried it before. He did it. He's like, well, the image got darker, but I don't know if it made the after images go away any better. The OLED motion setting on LG OLEDs is their name for black frame insertion. Yeah. The panels themselves are refreshing at 120 frames per second, but almost none of your content is coming in at 120 frames per second. It's coming in at 24 or 30 or 60 for the most part, which means there are frames that the TV itself is making up in some way or another. If you're doing it judder free, it's just redoing the exact same frame that it just did without interpolating anything new. If you turn on the de-judder setting, the motion clarity setting, then it's going to start interpolating frames that the source didn't actually have. But the other option is just say, well, I've got 60 real frames to display, but I'm refreshing 120 times a second. I can just put a black frame in between each real frame, and simulate a little bit of the pulsing that plasmas or CRTs used to have, where there's nothing in between the frames, and so that gives your eye the chance to reset, and that's supposed to get rid of any smearing or after images, or if you were using it as a computer monitor and you're whipping the mouse around, you don't have any trails following around behind the mouse, that's the sort of thing. And it can be effective, but I always notice the flicker. I always notice the actual visible flicker in addition to it absolutely does literally cut the amount of light in half. That is just 100% what it does, is cut the amount of light coming from that screen literally in half. So noticing that it dimmed right away is bang on. But yeah, what it's doing is inserting a black frame in between every real frame. And there you go. Sometimes it does help with making motion look a little smoother, but I've never noticed that as really being a problem with OLED. So if you don't like what it does, it's fine leaving it off.
Nick is back and still trying to figure out the best way to add some soundproofing around his main floor master bedroom at minimal cost and hassle. So, on our previous advice, he did not have foam insulation injected into the interior. Oh, I remember this question. Into the interior walls of his house. They went ahead with the exterior walls only, and thankfully properly insulating around the sump pump that is within the walk-in closet of the master bedroom has reduced that noise enough that it's no longer on his list of soundproofing concerns to address. So he's turned his attention back to the interior walls of his house, with three main things still being of concern. When people are talking in the dining room and kitchen that are right outside the master bedroom, their voices can be heard inside the master bedroom. Footfall noises don't seem to be a problem. The washer and dryer in the laundry room that's right beside the master bedroom can be heard through the wall. The basement home theater is directly below the master bedroom. It has a drop tile ceiling. It's actually not too bad in terms of sound leaking upstairs into the master bedroom, but it isn't soundproof enough to be able to play a movie at night at a loud volume without someone in the bedroom above being able to hear it.
Yeah.
So first things first. He is not sealed underneath the bedroom door yet. We previously said that switching from the current hollow core door to a solid core door might not be worth it, so he's trying to determine how his money will be best spent when it comes to the door. Outside of the bedroom, the door is laminate. I'm sorry, the floor is laminate. Well, that makes a lot more sense. But inside the bedroom is carpet, so he wasn't keen to go with a regular door seal on the bottom. Instead, he was thinking that some inexpensive batten molding might be a good option. It would slide more easily over the carpet as the door swings into the bedroom, and it would still close off the gap below the door and block light from coming in too. What do we think? Will the batten molding be sufficient to make a difference? And since we asked about it before, the bedroom has 2 air supply ducts and an air return, so it doesn't seem to rely on the gap underneath the door for air circulation within the bedroom. I also have 2 vents in my room. I'm trying to figure out if one of them is an air return or not, because I would like to put something underneath mine. What am I looking at here? What is this picture?
Yeah, so I mean, this is basically just batten molding, which is kind of like a fibrous material. It's squishy, kind of squishy.
Okay. It looks like I thought it was wood. I was a little confused.
No, it's so inexpensive that I can't imagine not just trying it.
Yeah,
like that has to be the answer. But I would go a step further. I wouldn't say only put this under the door jamb. Like I would say to try putting this under the door jamb, but in addition to that, get some of the little weather stripping that goes around the side and the top of the door as well. Because the idea is
but you can put that in the door frame, right?
That's right.
You put that on the door frame, and that means that even if you switch your door later on, because my thing is like, I don't like wasting money. And if you're going to put this on the door frame, great. Then your door will be weatherproofed.
Yeah.
No matter if it's a solid core or a hollow core door.
Yes.
So you can, when you switch your door, it won't make a difference. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, below the door, this part would go to waste. But I think you're spending about $3 on this. So that to me is so inexpensive that it's absolutely just worth the experiment. So I would give it a try with the full weather stripping around the door that's installed in the door jamb. And if you still notice that sound is now literally coming through the door itself, then it is time to spend the money to upgrade to a solid core door.
I mean, just remember, it's all about flanking paths. So you've identified a very big flanking path here at this door, but it's not the only one. We still have outlets and stuff like that. So,
but when it comes to, I can just hear voices outside, but not so much vibrational footfall noise. I'm like, that is probably just coming through the gap under the door.
So right now the interior walls are still empty inside. He's discovered there is a blown-in rock wool option, and we previously said that installing rock wool insulation would be superior to the foam insulation when it comes to soundproofing. So would that be worthwhile? The cost is reasonable. He's thinking the wall between the bedroom and the kitchen and dining area for sure, and then maybe also between the bedroom and the laundry room. Would adding blown-in rock wool insulation into any of the other interior walls make a worthwhile difference?
Tougher.
So there are other things to consider here than just whether or not they're going to work. All right. So let's just say a cost is no object. You don't really care.
Okay.
You could do whatever you want. What should you do? The easy answer would be to say, hey, just do it. I mean, at the very least, it won't make anything worse. That's true as far as sound goes, but it can make other things worse. So my other home theater we had built out. Remember, we moved the interior wall to change how the dimensions of the room. And when I did that, I added insulation to that interior wall. Now, all the other walls were either exterior walls or they went into a bathroom or something like that. So that was also exterior. So there was basically insulation already in all those walls because of the fact that they're insulation. I mean, they're exterior walls. So the interior wall I put insulation into. And the amount of difference the temperature in that room would experience versus the rest of the house, where there's more air return, there's more the rest of the house would all be one temperature, and I have this door closed, which you're going to have. Your door will be closed. There is an air return there. There's an air return, but is that going to hit the thermostat in a way that makes it cool down the rest of the house enough so that your bedroom gets or warm up the rest of the house as your bedroom gets warm? You know what I mean? Both sides of it. So that room would just would hold or reject heat in a way that was not the same as the rest of the house.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to do all this for soundproofing, if I'm going to insulate every single wall, which is where this is really going, right?
Yeah, because you're going to find that until every path is addressed, there's going to be a path for the sound to get in.
So if you're going to do all this, right, and you're going to make this essentially you need to have a standalone HVAC experience in this room as well. That either means a mini split that you install just for your bedroom, which now we have another source of noise, in theory, unless you get a good one, or that's probably a little bit more expensive, or you have to have a zone in your current AC solution,
which of course is the ideal way to do it, but could be an expensive upgrade if it doesn't already exist in the house.
So you need to think about this. I mean, I continue to think that the solution is to do the main things like what we're talking about, easy, cheap main things.
Sure.
And then just have a white noise generator in this room of some sort that blocks out the rest of it.
Even purely from the soundproofing point of view, like the insulation inside of your walls, what it's really there to do is to get rid of the resonance that happens inside of the cavity of the wall when it's completely empty. When you fill that up with insulation, in terms of how much it helps soundproofing noise coming from inside to outside or outside to inside, it's like 5 decibels. Like, it's not nothing. I'm not going to say it's nothing, but it's often not nearly as much as you were hoping for, just adding insulation inside your walls. I don't want to say it's not noticeable. 5-6 decibels is like literally verging on subjectively half as loud, but it's not as much as a lot of people are hoping for. Like, ultimately, I come back to, if you want to soundproof this room, you have to soundproof the room. Like, eventually you can't get away from it. You either do the cheapest, simplest, easiest to reverse stuff, which is just sealing any paths where air can literally move, or you do the full soundproofing. Like, I don't think half measures are your friend here. And I think if you spent all the money to blow in rock wool insulation into some of the walls of the master bedroom, I don't think you're going to be happy with the value that you glean from that. I don't think it's going to be enough for the soundproofing to feel like it was worth the money that you spent. And then, as Tom rightly points out, you could raise other problems you have to deal with too.
Right. Within the wall that's between the bedroom and the laundry room, there are still 2 cavities that cannot be filled with blown-in Rockwell insulation the way they are. One of those cavities is the air return. The other has wires inside of it. If leaving those cavities as is would seriously compromise the soundproofing, then he'd be willing to open... Was that? Did I say something wrong?
It would.
Yeah. Then he'd be willing to open just those 2 bays in the wall and do what's necessary to insulate inside of them. Rob previously mentioned that the air return bay can be lined with a plenum insulation, which is just rigid foam board.
It is not. It's the not rigid one that's kind of important. The rigid one won't help you with soundproofing. That's the non-rigid one. But it's the stuff you would literally line a plenum with. It's the same stuff.
And the wires could be bundled within the conduit, and the insulation could be installed around that. So overall, he's just trying to get a sense of what would be worth the cost and the hassle. He really doesn't want to add a second layer of drywall within bedrooms, within the bedroom, not so much because of the price, but because it would also necessitate redoing all of the trim and the door jambs and all that nonsense. And they have to repaint the whole room and deal with the textured ceiling. So he's really hoping that just adding blown-in Rockwell insulation and addressing the gap in our door will be enough, but you'd like to hear our thoughts. You haven't addressed outlets at all.
Okay.
Like it hasn't even come out of your mouth. So there is a flanking path that you're not addressing. 2, you're hearing the washing machine and the dryer, right?
Right.
Or are we hearing the vibrations from the washing machine and the dryer? So if we have not bought those, which we recommend all the time on this thing, those little square pads that you can get from Amazon for next to nothing.
Not expensive.
That are made specifically for washers and dryers.
Yes.
To put underneath their feet to make sure that those vibrations are being isolated, right? If you're not doing those things first, and then seeing how it, the washer dryer pads would be step 1. We should have been step. It's almost like, like the Batman Year 1. Let's go back and rewrite history and go and do it again because we should have started here. So the pads underneath the washer and dryer should have been step number 1. If they have not been done, then let's get them done immediately.
Yes.
And then see how it works. If you're going to start adding insulation to things and doing all this cost and all this other stuff, you got to look at the outlets. You've got to look at all the other flanking paths. I mean, plus you have the air return, right? Which you haven't talked about at all.
Right. Well,
you have the air. Well, just here. But I'm talking about air return, the HVAC, and everything else. Those are all openings to your house that go to someplace else. Your room that go to someplace else. Sounds are leaving your room and coming into your room through those ducts as well. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't started dressing it quickly gets out of control is what my whole point is.
Right. Yeah. No, so I don't feel particularly good about from my point of view, telling you that, go ahead with the blowing in the insulation, because I just predict that you will not think you got good value for money. I don't think it'll make zero difference, but I don't think it'll make enough difference for you to be happy, and I don't think you'll feel like you got your money's worth. I actually neglected to think, because he did have a question about the basement, because it's the drop tile ceiling below. So it's like, there, I wouldn't feel so bad about getting the cheapest bat insulation you can find, because it doesn't matter acoustically. No. And like filling the cavities of your ceiling above the drop tile ceiling, because that is not new construction. That is just taking down your ceiling tiles and putting the cheapest bat insulation into the floor joists, because that's a benefit no matter what you do. That's a benefit all the way around and really doesn't cost much. But I still wouldn't expect that to mean you can play a movie loud downstairs and not hear it in the bedroom upstairs at night. It's not going to be that kind of a difference. But that insulation adding to the ceiling joists in the basement, I feel good enough about saying to go ahead and do that. But the other one is either you reduce all of the movement of air, you get rid of all of the vibrations you can, you do all of those things as inexpensively as you can. If that isn't enough, then it is time to actually soundproof the room. Don't do the half measure. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think that you're trying to get bang for your. I think you're trying to get bang for your buck here.
Of course.
Because I mean, one of the things that we started off with was the second layer drywall, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, it's too much of a hassle.
Which is understandable.
Yes. I don't disagree with you. Yeah. A lot of this is too much of a hassle, but it's a hassle that you're paying somebody else to do, and you think that if it makes a big difference, it'll be worth it. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to have to deal with moving all your furniture out of your bedroom and having them do the drywall and all the other stuff.
And it is a big cost. No question about it.
Absolutely. I just don't think it's going to be worth it. I think that, the little things that we're talking about.
Is not worth it. No.
Yeah. I think the little things we're talking about, like putting
Yes.
something underneath the washer and dryer feet are going to make more of a difference. I completely understand where you're coming from. I completely do.
That's
I
exactly
don't-
why we're giving the advice we're giving.
Yeah. But guess what? ChatGPT thinks it's going to work great, by the way.
Especially if you ask it the right way.
Dazz recently watched a YouTube video featuring the Legacy Audio Silhouette on-wall speakers. He was instantly smitten by their looks. Have you seen the new Ascend ones with their derpy tweeter? Have you seen that?
They look different than these.
They look different than these. That's right. These are sexy. Though I don't like how the tweeter is off. It's a little too close to. I understand why it is, but they should have done something to make it look like the tweeter isn't like.
Integrate the faceplates, perhaps.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Anyways, and then the more details he learned about them, the more they seemed to like exactly what he's been looking for. His basement room is fairly large in terms of volume of air and seating distance, but due to certain door and seating placements, he'd actually really benefit from a slimmer on-wall form factor. His Ascend Acoustics. Why don't we ever talk about them, huh? SE series speakers have been up to the task in terms of output, but if you were ever going to upgrade, he's thinking ribbon or folded ribbon tweeters, a dedicated mid-range with a phase plug, simply because phase plugs look sexy. Agree. Substantial bass woofers, high sensitivity, and an on-wall form factor are all things he'd look for, and the Legacy Audio Silhouette has them all. But then he got to the price, and while he's willing to spend a good chunk of change on speakers, those retail prices are just too much for his budget. So, Legacy Audio, by the way, is not playing around when it comes to price.
No.
Okay. The legacy is we expensive. That's what their legacy is. So in terms of all-in-wall speakers, Ascend doesn't have anything that fits all of his criteria. He's been wondering if David might take the current ELX models and just rework their cabinets and crossovers to move the ports to the front to make more of a monitor form factor. But unless we know something he doesn't, he can't hold his breath for that. Hey, we also know that David will build you whatever the heck you want if you ask him nice enough.
You can get custom, but the internal volume is going to remain the same. So you end up with like my center speaker that I showed there, which is a tower turned on its side. That's what you're going to end up with.
So then the per listen on-wall models also catches attention, but again, the prices are a bit tough to swallow, especially if you only wants the flagship beryllium tweeter models. Jeez, dude. Lower your expectations. So are there any speakers we can point to that might satisfy all of his criteria, including the price, and if they could come with magnetic grills, unlike the Legacy Silhouette speakers, that would be even better. I mean, I haven't done any research into this, so I'm sure Rob has got an answer. I will tell you this,
I have an answer.
Yeah, it's hard to be on a budget when you know what quality is and you're willing to, you know what I mean? You know what you want. It's almost irksome to see somebody who has something really expensive and it's shoved in the corner, placed improperly, and you're like, ugh. I would really appreciate this, and these people clearly do not. And I understand where you're coming from, because these Silhouette on-wall speakers are what, $6,500 to $8,100?
Yeah, and I don't know where you're going to find them for $6,500, because I'm only seeing $7,500 anywhere as the starting price, and then goes up from there for the finish option. Yeah.
So, I understand where you're coming from here, and sometimes we just got to be like, listen, it's constantly on the lookout for a deal, constantly on the lookout for a sale of some sort. And in this case, what you really have to do is get yourself a relationship with your local dealer and say, hey, I really want these.
That price.
I really want these, but I there's no way I can pay that price. I just can't do it. So if you've got a customer that returns them or doesn't like them, and you've got to get rid of them because they're used or whatever, even if they were only used for a little while, call me. That's really what you have to do if you're really dedicated to getting these specific speakers. But Rob, what do you got as far as recommendations?
Yeah, so as long as you want them in black, and as long as you are willing to give up the phase plugs, because these ones I'm going to suggest don't have phase plugs, but if you're okay with black and no phase plugs, I'm going to suggest you at least have a look at Aperion's Theatris lineup of speakers, because if you might have remembered them and only remembered the ones that very much are reminiscent of M&K or MK Sound speaker designs. And you might be like, that wasn't quite the form factor I wanted, although they've always had a folded ribbon tweeter as part of the design. But they now have a full suite of on-wall, including reorienting the drivers so that it's a vertical on-wall design, three-way on-wall design, and then they have in-wall models as well, which are fully sealed, enclosed, included back boxes on those things. That's just how they come, which I love about the design. So other than if you wanted a different finish other than black, because they only come in black, and other than they don't have phase plugs, they have all the other checkmark boxes that you talked about, and they are definitely less expensive than the legacy audio ones. So at least have a look at those, Dazz, because they might be right up your alley.
I agree. Those look great.
A Pyrian Theatrics.
Secondly, he says, as we've said many times, every speaker is ultimately a set of compromises. So if we were designing our own speakers, which components and compromises would we select and why?
I like big bookshelf or monitor stand speakers. So that's where I would start for the Rob H design speakers. They'd be a stand mount monitor or a big bookshelf speaker. So I mean, I focus very much on treble, so I am not cheaping out on the tweeter. I could, if I'm trying to keep the price somewhat down, I'd be looking at like the latest of the aluminum magnesium tweeters, because I think those do perform very, very nicely. Beryllium tweeters sure would be nice, and ribbon tweeters sure would be nice. I'd be looking at a Raoul ribbon tweeter design. If I'm going with Raoul ribbon tweeter, I'm probably going to favor going with a three-way design, so I would want to have a dedicated mid-range driver. But I ultimately end up at something very, very close to an Ascend Acoustics Sierra Horizon speaker, because that is right up my alley in terms of what I like. Or you could look at Perlissen's designs, and yes, I'd be right along the same lines as what Perlissen is doing. So that pretty much solves it for me.
So if you're talking about compromises, and I don't know that I've really thought about this in super detail, but the things that I've always cared about when it comes to speaker design is accessibility.
Okay.
As far as how easy they are to drive, and treble but not bass extension. Like, I don't care that I don't even care if the speaker gets all the way down to 80 hertz. I know that we should care that it goes like to 60, so that there's, the crossover region is good. I'm kind of okay with a speaker that starts rolling off a little bit before 80 hertz, so you cross over at 100. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If on the other side of that, you're getting like ruler flat, absolute pinnacle performance above that. Okay. So I'm with Rob on the tweeter, making sure that the tweeter is really good. I also care more about size than I think that other people might.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by accessibility. Like, I like to have a speaker that people don't look at it and go, oh my God, what the heck is that? I could never own that. I'd rather them come in and say, hey, that looks really cool, and I could see that in my space, and then have it perform amazingly. Mm-hmm. So, from the standpoint of price, I'm also conscious of that. So, if I were designing my own speaker, it would be a $500 bookshelf.
Okay.
That came down to like 100 to between 60 and 100 hertz, but had like a great tweeter and good and easy to drive 8 ohm impedance. And I wouldn't care too much about being the loudest speaker either.
Okay.
I would be like, this speaker is meant for you to sit in a room with it, not that far away, 10 to 12 feet at the maximum. And it's meant to be paired with a subwoofer. It's meant to be, it has all these compromises as far as sound on the low end and volume wise. But, if you're sitting in a normal room at a normal distance, this thing absolutely sounds amazing. And from 80 hertz or 100 hertz on up. So that's,
and mine are like $2,000 a piece, big old honkin' monitor speakers.
Yes. I would not have big old honkin' monitor, because the big old honkin' monitor speakers are because you want to have bass as well, and I don't think that's necessary. Henry, he said, by golly, we actually got a glimpse of Rob H's home theater during Lee's vacation slideshow. Henry has always wondered what Tom and Rob's own home theaters actually look like. Rob's does indeed look like a space where you could forget about the outside world for a couple hours and just get lost inside of a movie. So even though it's a small room, did Rob ever consider using a projection system? I think you
sure
did have a projector, didn't you?
I still own a projector. It's just not in use. Yeah. No. My original idea when I first bought this apartment was to have the 2-screen solution. I was going to have a flat panel, not necessarily mounted on the wall, but like using one of those 3-in-1 stands that I always talk about, and then have a roll-down projection screen that could come in front of it, so that 16 by 9.
You used to advocate for that for years on this podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, years.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that 16 by 9 could be exactly the size that I want it for television, and then I would have a roll-down screen, still 16 by 9, but large enough that when it's CinemaScope 2.35:1, the height would be the same as the TV screen, and then when it's IMAX, it can be even taller. So yes, I absolutely considered it. I do, in fact, own a projector and a screen. They're just not in use anymore.
Yeah. Andreas in Sweden. Andreas has a 5.2.4 setup in his apartment. The theater area is 4 meters by 4 meters, so about 13 by 13 feet. It is open on the right side to the kitchen, and if he closes all of the doors in his apartment, the remaining volume of air is about 40 meters square, or about 430 square feet. He's using a Marantz Cinema 50 receiver with an extra Emotiva bass aux, a 3 amp to power his front, left, center, and right speakers. He also paid to upgrade his Marantz all the way to DRAC Art. All of his speakers and subs are from Arendelle in their 1961 series. He has the MTM monitors for front, bookshelves, and surrounds, web-shaped models for heights, and 2 of the 1S sealed 12-inch subwoofers to go, with one in the the rear left corner, and the other just to the right of the TV, which is a 77-inch LG CX OLED. His seats are just under 3 feet from the back wall, and his TV and front 3 speakers are pulled forward just over 3 feet from the front wall. He's got GIC Acoustics 242 absorption panels behind his front 3 speakers, and 5 more panels, 3 of which are combo panels on the back wall. We don't have any pictures. I don't see any pictures.
He didn't send any pictures, so I did the best I could of explaining.
So when he ran DRAC Art, it did seem to improve the bass in his setup, particularly when he let it do as much as it could with the bass output from his front 3 speakers. But given that those front 3 speakers are sealed, they simply cannot extend into the deep bass. He's considering replacing the front, left, and right speakers with the Arendelle 1961 towers primarily, so they will be able to provide deeper bass extension to work with DRAC Art. But would his money be better spent on just adding 2 more subwoofers to a system while keeping the same speakers that he has right now?
That's an interesting one.
So, as a reminder, DRAC Art, the way it works is it takes all your speakers, it tries to use everything basically in order to, it's what we find, or what Rob has found specifically, is that it works better the worse your room is.
Like more noticeably. Yeah.
More noticeable.
People can point to the measurements, and it's like you can measure the difference that it makes if you have something close to full range speakers in all positions. You can definitely, honestly, to the point that the decay times get so low in the deep bass, I think it starts to sound a little unnatural, if I'm being completely honest. But you can certainly point to the difference that it makes, even in a very well-treated, dedicated room. But in terms of just running it by default and hearing the difference instantly, I'm like, yeah, the worse your room is, the bigger the difference it makes.
Yeah. So a lot of times, DRAC Art really wants you to have full range speakers kind of pretty much everywhere
that's the kind of ideal. Yeah.
Do what they want. So in my my natural reaction is to say get 2 more subwoofers, because
right.
I kind of feel like that's, what, this is what I think. I think that the Arendelle towers are never going to get as deep as they really want you to get, right? So instead, get 2 more subwoofers and place them underneath your front, left, and right speaker. Place them right there as if they were.
And then you can have the 2 subs you already own, they can be at the back.
Yes.
Of your space, yeah.
I think that's what I would do. It
was interesting over on Audioholics' YouTube channel. They actually partnered up with another fellow, but he just posted a video just within the past week of testing the Marantz AV30. That's their 11.4 channel pre-pro, but specifically trying all of the various room treatment methods, including just fully manually doing it himself with like 2 mini DSPs, because he's got 8 subwoofers, this guy, and so just doing it with like 2 mini DSPs and Room EQ Wizard and fully doing it manually. And so he was a fully dedicated treated room, 8 subwoofers in the room, no problems with headroom or anything like that. And he was like, ultimately, what he preferred was, of course, his own manual setup, because that's what he's used to, but Dirac Live bass control. He's like, that did a remarkably good job of like automating the process and taking way less time than his full manual method. But when he switched over to art, he was like, I know that I can get this like dialed into perfection, but there are so many parameters and so many variables, and weirdly some little limitations into exactly how low it will correct among the multiple subwoofers. And his system can play flat down to 10 hertz, and he's like, it was kind of rolling everything off at 17, which Tom and Rob aren't going to care that much about. But it's just like, he was like, Art got so into the weeds that he found that Dirac Live bass control, which you definitely have because you paid for the full suite all the way up to Art. It's like, I kind of lean on, don't be afraid, because here's the thing, you don't have to measure more than once with the rack, because it just measures each speaker and each subwoofer individually, and then you can choose what calculations to apply without having to remeasure everything. So I lean towards, in your scenario, I'd keep the speakers you have. I would spend the money on 2 more subwoofers. I'd have 2 at the front, 2 at the back, and I very well might try, hey, what happens if I just stop at bass control and I don't even bother with Art? I know you spent the money, but like, it's free to try and you don't have to remeasure. So I'd absolutely try that scenario.
Okay. So he wishes that Atmos sounded better, but he isn't sure what he needs to do to improve how it sounds. Well, lower your expectations for one. Let's start there. As mentioned, he has 4 of the Web Shapes Arendelle 1961 speakers. 2 of them are mounted up high on his front wall and labeled as front heights. They're about a 30-degree elevation angle to his seats. The other pair are positioned directly above his surround speakers, and given those positions, he labeled those as surround heights, which the Marantz says is fully compatible with all the immersive audio formats, thanks to the way they have implemented their speaker labels.
Yeah,
the surround heights are at 45-degree elevation angle to his seats. So is the positioning of his height speakers the problem? Would moving their positions make Atmos sound better? And he could mount them as on-ceiling speakers instead, maybe lay his top fronts and top rears and mount them in those positions on the ceilings. The top rears will still end up at a steeper angle than the top fronts. Is it critical for the angles to be equal between the fronts and rears? God, I hope not. Basically, what should he do to make Atmos sound more impressive? Where are surround heights? Are they to his sides?
Yeah, I'm not absolutely sure, since he doesn't sound like he has much of a right wall, but I'm not totally, I mean, it's open to the kitchen, but that doesn't mean there might not be a partial wall or a column. I would label them fronts and rears. And something like that. If they're behind you, I would label them as a fronts and rears. And if they're not behind you, I would move them behind you and make them fronts and rears. I mean, I got to be honest, the labels don't really matter very much in the Marantz, what is it, Cinema 50 that this fella has?
40, I think. Is what said, am I wrong?
Yes, whatever Marantz AV receiver that you have there. Cinema 50 it was
50,
up the top there.
I see it now.
So the labels don't really matter very much at all, because it's basically just a 4-quadrant system. It's like in front to your left, in front to your right, behind to your left, behind to your right. That's pretty much the only steering that it does. So ultimately, the labels don't really matter. I'm very tempted to say the first thing you should try is just increasing the trim level on your overhead speakers, because I think what you're wanting is to just notice that there are sounds above you more than you are currently noticing that there are any sounds above you, and that's largely just turning them up.
I would also make sure that you're using like up mixers, I guess. You know what I mean? If they're only being engaged when you actually have Atmos content.
Yes.
Are you going to know? You know when you'll really notice them is when things aren't very loud, and you like Rob said, you've goosed the upper levels, the upper overhead speaker levels.
On that front, if you don't want to do that for some reason, you just are opposed to doing that,
just put on the DTS.
Use the DTS Neural X up mixer more, because it turns everything that's above you up by 10 decibels, just like it does the LFE, and it makes them substantially more noticeable. So, because you can even do that, like even if you're listening to a Blu-ray with an Atmos soundtrack, you can turn that into Dolby True HD with the DTS Neural X up mixer, and you'll notice the overheads more than you have been. So I'm very tempted to say try that first, because obviously that requires the least amount of hassle. Right. You're literally just as changing your listening mode or increasing the trim level.
Like Rob said, it doesn't really matter that much. The how you label them to a certain extent doesn't matter that much. But if the surround speakers are to your sides, or maybe to your sides and a little bit behind you, and these speakers are directly above them,
yes,
I would move them behind you.
Okay.
That's about the only... I think that, yes, it doesn't matter as much but the placement of them
put them
does
high
matter.
up on your rear wall and call them rear heights, because that'll also work with all of the immersive audio formats.
Yeah.
I will say, like, front heights are the least impressive speakers I've ever heard in my life, and I do think you can make what is above you and in front of you a little bit more noticeable by putting them in the actual top front positions. But prior to doing any of that, I would just turn up the trim levels or I would use the DTS Neural X Up mixer instead. I bet you that's really all you need to do to be like, oh, I do notice those speakers and now I like it.
Jeez, how
if
long
we can
have we
finish
been
Brian's,
going?
that'd be perfect.
Okay.
It's not that long.
You're killing me, man. I'm so hungry. Brian still uses over-the-air TV, and he's been doing so long enough that he still has an ancient PC that's running Windows 7 with Windows Media Center.
I bet that's not getting updates anymore.
You don't think so? But an Xbox 360 as a Windows Media Center extender and HD Home Run 2 tuner, network tuner, whatever, that is just as old. Anyways, I guess something's confusing here because the but and Xbox 360.
That should be an and, yes.
Okay, whatever. As we imagine, it's no longer a viable solution going forward, so he's been noodling with the idea of changing over to an all-Plex setup. It has never been its super high priority. However, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Plex is about to have a major price hike on the lifetime subscription, so he's feeling like he needs to make this decision right away. So his main priority is an over-the-air DVR that can handle today's broadcast. It would also be cool to be able to create his own Blu-rays and Ultra HD Blu-ray backups. But that isn't actually an immediate concern, and being able to stream any content that is stored on at home to a remote location would be nice, but honestly wouldn't get used very often. So having all of the streaming services available on the same device would be neat, but there are plenty of options for streaming, so that's not actually that important. What is important here? What is happening?
And over-the-air DVR. Ultimately, that's what's important. He's just like, here are the other things he's aware that Plex can do that would be kind of nice, but ultimately the over-the-air DVR is the priority here.
It sounds like, the over-the-air DVR is the big thing. Plex... What do you need the subscription for? Don't you need it mostly for streaming?
You do need the subscription for that. In order to use it as an over-the-air DVR, you do need the Plex Pass subscription. And then, of course, Plex by itself is not a tuner, so you're still going to need a network tuner of some kind. Yeah.
All right, what's the answer, Rob? Let's get through this. Come on, I'm hungry.
Yes, so I would recommend, rather than Plex for any of this at this point, for the over-the-air DVR solution, I would point you to ZapperBox. Mainly because there are only two solutions out there right now that will actually allow you to decrypt the encrypted next-gen TV, otherwise known as ATSC 3.0 broadcasts. Some of those are encrypted, and there's only two solutions that can decrypt those and allow you to record them, and ZapperBox is one of them. The other solution is a very simple tuner where you can plug in your own USB drive to pseudo-tune it into a DVR, but it is all completely manual programming for recording on that other solution. So the ZapperBox is the one that actually works like a DVR that you're expecting. So they have a quad tuner for $400 that does require you to pay the $50 per year subscription, which gives you all of the guide data and everything like that. That's probably not the one I would point you to, because the most available one is their dual tuner solution, $275 for that. But with that one, you can go with the $240 lifetime subscription to ZapperBox's guide data and all of its features, or it's $30 a year for that. And with those subscriptions, you can have two of the dual tuner ones to still give you the four tuners that would cost you more up front. But to me, that's probably the better solution. Plus, it's just more widely available. The quad tuner is kind of hard to come across. For the solution of you used to have a Windows Media Extender, they have the Zapper Mini. That's $160. It doesn't have a tuner built in, but for any other rooms where you just want to be able to feed off of the other DVRs in your ZapperBox setup, that's what the Zapper Mini is for, and it works just like a Windows Media Extender used to. So that is the solution to me for an over-the-air solution these days.
All right. So he kind of recalls when we mentioned something we think is superior to Plex for playing disk backups. What was that again?
That is Zidu. Yeah, Zidu. The reason that I sort of prefer recommending that is that it is just easier to make your backups. In either scenario, you're going to be using Make MKV software on your PC or your Mac to actually make the backups of your discs. But when you're doing it in Plex, you have to actually turn them into MKV files. You have to do that conversion, which is, more involved. There's more checkboxes to go through. Exactly what do you want to keep? Exactly what do you want to get rid of? And it's all, title by title. You have to go through all the checkboxes, and it just takes more time. On the Zidu, what you can do is just go into Make MKV and not even press the open this disk button to get started and begin turning it into an MKV. You can just click on the much smaller little icon that one for one backs up the entire disk. And all you end up with is a big old BDMV file, which is a full-on one. Everything that was on the disk is now in that file. But the Zidu can just play back that file exactly as if you had put a physical disk into the player. So I think that's a lot easier. I would point you right now to, it's a discontinued model at this point, but the Z20 Pro, which is actually a model that can still play 3D Blu-rays, whereas the brand new ones can't play 3D Blu-rays, probably doesn't matter at all, but that is one interesting feature. But it's just so much less expensive right now. They're selling off the last of their stock for $315, and you can put a up to 16 terabyte regular 3.5-inch spinning hard drive into the Z20 and have all of your storage on board, or you can of course plug USB hard drives into it or network attached drives.
Lastly, if he does go with Plex, is what hardware would you recommend to run it? He's considering dedicating a PC to it. And that's generally what we do, right? Like a PC or an old laptop.
Yeah, like if you have a PC that you want to dedicate to it, that's certainly a totally fine solution. The NVIDIA Shield Pro can still act as its own standalone Plex servers. Only the Shield Pro model, not the little tube NVIDIA Shield, but the NVIDIA Shield Pro can act as a full standalone Plex server. I'm not super in love with recommending that as the way to go anymore. It's pretty fiddly because you still have to do all of the actual management and setup on a separate network attached computer, or technically you can do it on a tablet or phone, but boy oh boy is dealing with that interface frustrating. So it's still kind of fiddly to do it. The other option though is you're gonna have storage of some kind, right? So if you were planning to get a NAS anyway, a network attached storage, almost all of the NASs out there now can be Plex servers. So that might, like if you already have a PC that's lying around, then that's totally fine. And maybe you put all the storage inside of that PC and you're done. So great. But if you were going to be buying something to dedicate to it, I think it makes sense to get a NAS. The Synology NASs work great for this purpose, and they can be the Plex server. And since they're going to be on all the time anyway and using less power than a PC would, why not do it that way?
All right, who we have left?
We have Michael, and Trevor had a comment for Michael, so I combined them together. And then Neil, and we also had one that came in on Monday from Nels. So those are all the emails I've collected up to the point of when we're recording today, and you'll be first up next week.
Quick reminder, with the Sofabaton U3, this is your last week to enter, so send your emails to question@avrant.com. Say you want to be entered into the drawing, and if you are, you'll know you're entered when you get a response from Rob that says, got it.
That's
basically.
Right. Got your entry. That's what I'm sending to everybody who sends one in. One entry per person, your final week to enter. We're going to be drawing the names of 3 winners on next week's episode.
That's right. Thank our listeners in the week. We want to thank Keegan for going to avrant.com, clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 121 patrons over at patreon.com.
Yeah, Keegan, thank you so much for that PayPal donation. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 121 patrons over there.
We also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Jason, Mohsen, Gurinder, Greg, Martin, A, Neil, Dan, Theo, Dave, Keith, Andy, Jeff, Mike, Brandon, Infinite Gary, Jefferson, Martin D, Russell, Andreas, and Mark. Sorry. Thank you for thanking us.
Yes, I'll say the names one more time. Big breath from me, too. Jason, Mohsen, Gurinder, Greg, Martin A, Neil, Dan, Theo, Dave, Keith, Andy, Jeff, Mike, Brandon, Infinite Gary, Jefferson, Martin D, Russell, Andreas, and Mark V. Thank you all so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really do appreciate them. And a big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.